For analysis, we have Mr. Shibley, myself, and Mr. Rowland. And somebody had mentioned they don't have IB applications or analysis first quarter. So some of us are teaching it first quarter and some teaching second quarter, but we wanted to make sure to introduce all of us today. And then, oh yeah, go ahead, Mr. Wright.
And I'll be teaching the analysis year 2, but that is until second quarter.
Yes. All right, so what to expect. So some major topics we've been asked to share with you today. Mr. Wright's going to share about applications and I'll jump in with analysis.
All right, so in applications, we're really only doing 3 units in this first quarter. We're going to start with numbers and sequences, and that's talking about different kinds of numbers and how we round them and how we deal with different number sets and whatnot, and also sequences. You've probably seen maybe arithmetic geometric sequences before in an Algebra 1 class. We're going to get a little deeper into that. Then we're going to go into descriptive. Descriptive statistics, and then finish up with trigonometry.
All right, for analysis year 1, so we're going to cover some similar things. So sequences. We're also going to look at functions. So what is a function and different relationships about functions. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into looking at quadratic functions, rational and radical, so getting more specific. And a note at the bottom, one thing we're leading up to is eventually there's an opportunity to get dual credit through Clackamas Community College. It's an amazing opportunity, and a lot of the topics covered in this course are standards from the CCC curriculum. All right, and then year 2. Mr. Wright, what are we covering in year 2 for applications?
For applications, they start, we're starting off with probability, getting into a statistical testing called a chi-squared test, which lets you see if 2 variables are related to each other somehow. And we're going to be spending a lot of time on the internal assessment, which is a mathematical exploration paper that people are going to be writing, and that's going to be a good deal of the time in year 2. And in year 2 of analysis, also, I haven't listed all the topics, but we're also going to be working on the same internal assessment paper as well. So that's going to be a big part of year 2.
Yes. All right. IB support, so it's a new class that we're offering this year for students who would like some just extra time to process and understand the mathematics that they're learning in their IB classes. So there's not really going to be a separate curriculum for this class or separate major topics. We've got 2 major goals. One of them is to support you in becoming just more confident with mathematics and seeing yourself as a math person. And then the second goal is to make sure that we're supporting you in your IB course and extra help and extra time with things related to whatever you're doing in applications and the analysis courses. And then materials. So even though we're doing things digitally, you'll still want to have a notebook. So either spiral or composition. You will need to write some things down to kind of practice them and remember them. We'll have some big ideas, something to write with. And then a graphing calculator is required for all IB courses. And we'll be using mainly Desmos, which is free. It's online. It's super cool. You've probably seen it before in some of your other math classes. And then as time goes on, you might actually be getting a handheld graphing calculator or be using your handheld graphing calculator. If you're a year 2 student, you've already had experience with a graphing calculator, and when you meet with your year 2 teachers, they'll talk more specifically about those requirements. And we also included some snapshots of what the texts look like. Most likely we'll be getting a digital version of these texts to work out, and they've got some really cool features where you can click on things that are interactive and some videos, and it's really cool because we get to have, you know, some resources to look at in addition to our time with our teachers. And let's see. So office hours, I'm sure that you've gotten a ton of emails from administrators and from district leaders. So this is a sample student one schedule or period one schedule for a student, kind of shows what days you're going to have your synchronous learning and what days you're going to have your asynchronous learning. And then your Wednesday afternoon is more kind of applied time on your own. And that's going to be time that's flexible to you, but you'll also be meeting with your community and connections teacher. And then office hours, directly after your synchronous learning session, there'll be office hours time to meet with your teacher.
All right, so I'm seeing some questions in addition to a lot of off-topic stuff in the chat, which makes it really hard for me to see what the actual questions are that pertain to the class. So if you could find your friends, FaceTime them. If you don't want to be here, just drop out of the thing and go FaceTime your friends and talk to them about your clothes and what you're doing and all that stuff. But I do see some questions about, can we use a graphing calculator if we have one? Absolutely.
Yes.
Somebody else says, what if I want to get a graphing calculator? We would probably recommend TI 84 or 85 would be my recommendations. I would look on Craigslist for them and stuff like that rather than spend a bunch of money on Amazon. But yeah, certainly if you want a graphing calculator and you're going to take math classes next year as well, it's probably worth doing.
And I think I saw a question about if we can borrow one from the school. So we'll be getting supplies out to students later on. If you are needing a graphing calculator, please reach out to your math teacher as soon as possible, and they'll make sure that your name gets added to the list that we're collecting for students who would like access to a graphing calculator. Any other questions? TID3 Plus will work, yes. Okay. All right. So the synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous means you're meeting with your teacher live in this type of setting. Obviously, there'll be a lot less students. We have almost over 200 people here in this meeting. There'll be a much smaller amount. But some things you can expect, that's going to happen for an hour twice a week. Oh, Tom, this is your slide. I'm sorry, I took over.
That's all right. So showing up for synchronous classes, you're going to probably see demonstrations, little lectures on things, maybe taking some notes, some activities. We're working out ways to put kids into small groups online so they can work in small groups. We call them breakout rooms. We're going to be doing stuff just to build community in our classrooms to help people. This is a tough time. A lot of people feel like they're not getting emotional connections and social connections. So we'll be doing little things to hopefully help people with that. And obviously taking questions when students are not understanding what we're doing or struggling with homework questions. Asynchronous is more like your assignments, your practice, your homework. Those could be activities. They could be watching videos. They could be just practice problems that we're assigning you to do. They could be feedback that we're giving you or you're receiving from us or that you're giving us. And that's probably when assessments are going to happen. They're probably going to happen as kind of assignments. So that's probably something else to think about.
So there were some questions about homework being in asynchronous. So yes, that's asynchronous would be like your practice time. And I think everybody else's questions. Well, group projects, Carson, I'm not really sure what group projects would look like at the time. It depends on your teacher.
And that as far as textbook materials, yeah, we've got an order in for some textbooks. When we get those textbooks, you're just going to get digital copies of them. Until we get that, we have digital copies of textbooks that we can make copies from. So you'll probably get, for now, probably just the pages that we're working on, but at some point you'll probably get an entire digital textbook.
All right, and there was another question about the learning times for the asynchronous, the on your own work. We are still kind of learning about the schedule ourselves as teachers, and from what I understand, those are the times you can expect things to be posted to your Google Classroom. So at the start of that asynchronous block, you can take as long as you need to get those done in that time period, or work ahead if you need to, I think was the question.
Hey, Tom and Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
Christina has a question. My senior took IB Math SL1 last year and is registered for Math Analysis SL2 for Q2. Is that correct? That's
Yes.
correct sequence.
Yes.
And then also related, which math class is more in depth?
That's, I would say, it kind of depends on what you mean in depth. We're going to be studying different things in the math classes. If you want to be an engineer, if you're somebody that thinks you're going to be using math in a very mathy way, I would take analysis. The other one is more like applied math, statistics for people that maybe are in softer sciences or business or something like that.
That's all I see in there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
From Sky, will the textbook materials be sent to us in its entirety in PDF form, or will we get pages and sections of the textbook as they become relevant? By this, I mean, will we be getting the whole textbook?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. They will be getting a whole textbook when we get our textbooks, but probably until then, we're going to be giving them pages as they're relevant, because we have access to a digital copy until we get until Tracy Clark does our textbook order, or we receive that. They won't have that. So that's okay.
Okay, I think we got the questions answered. Thank you for asking. So let's look at accessing help with math. One thing to point out is that the way we can best support you is if we're able to do it as quickly as possible. So as soon as you have questions or are feeling unsure about something and just want to check in, please reach out to your teacher, and there's lots of ways to do that. We have office hours immediately after your live synchronous session with your teacher. There's also office hours every Wednesday from 10:45 to 11:45, where teachers you can set up an appointment with them to do one-on-one. You can do group interactions to work on questions that you might have. You can also email your teacher anytime. There's a way to do that through Google Classroom, or you can do it directly from your Gmail account. You can also make an appointment for individual support. I know that a lot of people, when we were in person, would come in before or after school to work with their teachers one-on-one. So there's still that option. And there's also a feature in Google Classroom where you can add a private comment to any assignment and ask questions or request some feedback or respond to feedback that a teacher has posted for you. And Mr. Wright's going to talk about grading.
All right, yeah. We haven't really worked out exactly how grades are going to be determined in these classes. We still have to figure out how assessments are going to be given and these kind of things. So this is a work in progress. So our suggestion to you is, rather than focus on a grade, focused on learning the material. And it turns out that if you learn the material, you'll get a good grade. So it's going to be a tough year for people that are just like, just show me how I can get a C. I just need to get a C, and I'm out. That's going to be much harder to deal with, because it just is. In this environment, it's going to be very easy to not learn some stuff, and then that's going to come back and get you. So focus on coming to class. getting your questions answered, making sure you've mastered the material, and I don't think you're going to have any problems. The problems are going to be when people don't do their work, don't show up, and then wonder, what do I got to do to get the grade I want? So be careful with that.
All right. So that brings us to any other questions we didn't get answered. If you have a question, you can type that in the chat. There's a question about makeup work. I believe so. Yeah, just like if we were in person, you can make up work for missed excuse days.
Where do we watch the replay of this? That's a good question. I'm not sure where that's going to be posted. Do you know, Courtney?
I believe Mr. Costa or Mr. Richardson will be linking that.
Right.
I think what we may do is link them into both IB class Google Classrooms. That way students in either class, actually any of the IB classes in math, I think we'll have each teacher link it there, and it may also be on the website.
So as far as I'm not sure how we're going to go about getting people graphing calculators. So stay tuned on that. If you're looking for a graphing calculator to borrow from the school, that's something that we need to work on as well. And can you mute that? Thank you. Snow days? I don't know.
Yes, Desmos is going to be the preferred calculator. I believe most teachers will be using Desmos since we all have access to that on our Chromebooks or any browser.
Question is, will lessons be recorded? Yes. But I would suggest showing up for lessons because you're going to miss stuff just watching a recording of it. It's going to be much more helpful to be there.
And there was a question about school. I think the question is asking, your first day of regular classes will be on Monday the 14th. So you'll log into your first period class at the correct time, 8:30, I believe.
There's a question about more independent work than allotted time allows. I believe the answer to that is no.
So a lot of these questions seem to be about just distance learning and Google Meets classrooms in general. There's going to be a lot of info on that at your first community. What is it? Community and
Connections.
Community and Connections class, and that's going to be Friday. You'll be getting an email on that, and you will get a lot of information on how to work with Google Classroom and Google Meets and these kind of things. So definitely want to show up for that.
We can answer questions about IB math.
All right, so it sounds like we're running out of questions. Everybody should have a community and connections class. I don't think some of them have been, I don't think some people have been notified of that yet.
Yeah, I answered that earlier in the chat. Darcy's still working on some of the final students to get them into A class, but you will have A class when you start. And it's not, the first one's not till next Wednesday. Actually, this Friday will be the first meeting.
What math class should I be in if I want to go into the medical field? I would recommend applications unless you want to be an actual doctor, in which case a lot of them require calculus. So the question is, if I take math analysis, I'm not sure. IB credit for year 1 of applications my senior year. So that would only apply to people that are taking, that are diploma candidates. You would need to take both years of the same course and test in that course your senior year.
Tom, there's also been a couple questions about the flexibility of late work, and I do believe that in this setting, we're asking teachers, there may be a due date, but as you know, our teachers are always willing to work with you, say if you're working half-time or even full-time. We will work with you in order to make sure you get your work in.
I see a question here. Which college course will we be getting credit for?
There is only a college credit for IB Math Applications Year 1, and you will get that credit during your second semester of that. IB Math Analysis Year 1 during your second semester. Did I say that right, Courtney?
Well, the second time around. So yeah, the IB Math Analysis course is connected to Clackamas Community College. And during the quarter 3 or quarter 4, depending on your schedule, is when you will sign up for that credit.
So Marissa says, if you're a sophomore going into IB math class that will finish junior year, what should I take your senior year? That's a good question, Marissa. We're thinking about that too. Hopefully by the time you're a senior, we'll have something for you. CCC course equivalent for analysis.
You'll get Math 111 credit.
Yeah.
It's called college algebra.
Bro, can people hear me? I'm confused.
How can we help you?
Oh, shoot, you guys can hear me? Oh.
All right, here's another question. Will there be support for those of us who use Windows operating systems as far as computers go?
Everything should be the same in Windows as it is on Apple. We're using Google Chrome. So as long as you have that as your internet browser, we should be pretty well aligned.
Any of these math classes be useful for getting to a trade school? I would think so, yes. Walter, I don't know that there's going to be lots of videos other than the videos of the class recording. Oh, maybe occasionally a teacher will make a video for something, but in general, you're going to be, if you're looking for videos, you're going to be watching a video of the actual class. All the classes will be recorded, yes. I would think for any kind of engineering, you'd want to take analysis.
You will find your class recordings in your Google Classroom.
Yes, we will be using Google Classroom to manage assignments back and forth and stuff like Google Slides and stuff like that for assignments. If you're going to be an architect, you want to take analysis. Assignments should show up in Parent View. Google Classroom will be synced with Synergy and Parent View.
The question, which class is good for trade school? I would say applications is going to give you more math background that you might use in a trade school, especially the statistics piece.
Can I take both year 2 classes? Talk to your counselor if you can schedule it. They'll let you do it. Not sure that a specific math class really comes to mind for welding. Probably applications. James, it just depends on what you're thinking you're going to like better. I would maybe go with applications. If you're taking analysis year 1, you're going to register for your credit in the spring semester. If you just like math and want to take analysis, I say go for it.
Hey, Tom, we're a little bit over time, so I think we need to close out.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you all, and reach out to us if you have some questions.
Hey, man, I appreciate you guys, man.
Thanks.
Right back at you.
Bye-bye.